All right, we're just doing some group training with some of our enrichment dogs. So enrichment dogs continue to come to school after they've completed a program, just to touch up on some more advanced training, or to touch up on some skills that need a little bit more work. And we have the availability to do that here at the studio. There's definitely a lot of skills that are hard to practice at home, like polite greetings and stuff like that, which is what Chloe's going to be working on. She's back from a little bit of a hiatus. So, and Cassie and Jess completed the partner program. Rocco's been in the enrichment program for a while, but he can also sometimes be a little bit hard to motivate. And then Bristol's been in the enrichment program for a little while, and she actually struggles sometimes with group training. I think because the criteria can fluctuate and change. That can be hard for a dog like her because she likes clarity and she wants to be right, and she's a people-pleasing kind of dog. She wants to, have the right answer, and when she's not quite sure what that is, she can kind of become a little bit shut down. So I have two dogs that are very motivated and almost a bit pushy. And then I have Rocco, who's kind of in between, and then I have Bristol, who's a bit standoffish in this type of situation. So right off the bat, my first criteria or goal in any training exercise, but especially this kind of hybrid training that we're doing with multiple dogs with multiple motivation levels, is to get the motivation up in some of the dogs that are a little bit flat. So Rocco and Bristol are kind of having their little moment in the sunshine over there, and they're just relaxing, which is really great. But I kind of want to make sure that I can pump them up without these two kind of losing it as well. I also want to kind of establish that I'm going to be reinforcing some dogs with food, and they're not allowed to push in on that. So we're going to work on that a little bit. Okay, come on, guys. Bristol, good girl. All right, so I'm going to go in and feed her, and she's like, oh, and as I approach, she's like, oh my gosh, you're bringing all your friends with you. That can make her a little bit wary. No, thank you. Good girl. So in our first little game, it's let's feed Bristol, and everybody else needs to kind of mind their P's and Q's. Brist, good girl. Yeah, she kind of gets pushed out of the way a little bit. Brist. So I'm going to say no thank you to Cassian. No thanks. I have food in that hand as well. Good girl. No thank you. Good girl. Nice. Good. You get fed because you're not being pushy. Good. And you get fed because you're not being pushy. You're going to get the next time because you're going to learn. Ready, ready, ready? All right. Bristol. Yes, that's you. Good job, girlfriend. Good. No, thank you. Whoops. You're all right. Good. Whoops. No, thank you. Bristol. Yeah, so Bristol's hearing me like saying no, thank you to other dogs. And she gets a little bit like, oh, am I wrong? Good. Come on, Brist. So actually, Rocco gets fed in that scenario, in that rep. No, thank you. Excuse me. Good. So I might be, ooh, no, thank you. Good. And also Cassian is a bit resource guardy, so I want to be aware of that. Good. Okay. Bristol. So I'm not sure how much we're going to get Bristol out of her shell in this exercise because it does very much make her uncomfortable. So I'm going to see if I can grab onto her leash. And actually, I think we're going to be able to see if you can actually show what we're seeing here. Bristol sometimes struggles with what we call pancaking. So she'll be out on a walk and she'll suddenly see people walking dogs in the distance. I think that's her number one kind of trigger that causes her to kind of pancake out and shut down. So that's actually what's happening right here. Good girl. And we've worked through this a lot with her. So I'm going to apply very light, just enough to where she feels it on her collar, pressure towards me. And as soon as she starts to yield towards that pressure, no, thank you. Oh, sorry. Good. You get fed. You don't. You get fed. Bristol, we're going this way. So Cassian has another dog at home, a brother. Good girl, Brist. So he has he definitely struggles with like FOMO, and he has a hard time. if mom is working with another dog or with the other dog. And so this is a really good exercise for him. Good job, Bristol. Good girl. Gonna kind of reel her in like a fishy. Good girl. Yeah, you're kind of coming in the middle. So I'm yes, good job. I'm making her do something a little bit uncomfortable. And we're using the leash to apply pressure when I want her to move forward. And the second I feel her starting to yield to that pressure, I'm releasing it. So the pressure is going on towards me and it goes on and stays on until I feel her starting to yield, but I am not increasing the pressure. I'm using very, very little pressure. I want to use the least amount I think I can use for her to even feel. So I'm not relying on the amount of pressure being what's making her want to turn it off. I'm working with duration. And we've done this exercise enough times that she realizes that ignoring it, or in her case, she's kind of going into, she's like, actually looks like she's going to fall asleep. She's closing her eyes. So she's like bearing it. She's like, I'm going to go to the sandy beach in my little dog head and really just like withstand this awful scenario until it goes away. So what we want to do is kind of exhaust the option of ignoring this. Good. She took one little step forward. I want to immediately release the pressure. And everyone else right now, their job is to do nothing and be appropriate. So these guys are choosing to settle. I could really reinforce that right now. Cassian's kind of looking good choice right there. Yes, ma'am. He's looking like he might get into something. He's like, I'm bored. You're not paying attention to me. And he's in that like angsty teenage stage. Good choice. So that's what we're looking for. Back to Bristol. Some pressure on towards me. I'm going to make some kissy. Good girl. Yes, ma'am. Perfect. So she's like halfway there. We're going to apply that pressure again. And I'm literally just using fingertip pressure. Here, baby. Almost there. And this is a boring thing to work on. And I can see how someone, nice one, Rocco just burped. I could see how this would be easy to, like, if your dog is doing this and you're out, good, you're out, yes ma'am, you're out on a walk and your dog does this, you don't necessarily have all this time, like however long that, I'm gonna let her take a break because that was a lot for her. Good job. Okay. Okay. So that was, what was I saying? You don't necessarily, if you're out on a walk, like I think what happens with Bristol is like, hey, look, it's like, 11 o'clock. It's time for getting out of the house and stretching our legs and getting some exercise. Like you need exercise. And it's part of like our enrichment routine for your livelihood to get out and do this. And you don't necessarily incorporate 20 minutes of taking 2 steps, stopping and putting on pressure. So in those moments where you don't have the time to work on it and you try to work on it and then you go, oh, this isn't working, and you kind of pack it in and you're like, all right, whatever, like let's just, or I might even like pick you up and go. That's actually the better option if you have to kind of stop, is just to like kind of like, all right, let's kind of just reset. But it unfortunately reinforces, hey, that's a bit rough. That can happen when we have food out. No thanks. No thanks. No thank you. Good girl, Chloe. So we have food out, so tensions can be a little bit high, right? Chloe, I didn't see that interaction start, but I imagine Chloe's trying to fixate on the food and he's being pushy, or maybe it was they were playing and she decided I'm done playing and the signals got missed. So she can kind of overcorrect sometimes as well. She's a bit over the top when she's like finally had enough. So those are all things that we're that we're working on. Perfect. So I'm going to give Bristol a little bit of a break, but that's what we're working on with her today. He's working on his ability to not be so pushy in these moments, working on FOMO. We're working on just kind of reviewing and recapping her and seeing where she's at with her obedience. It looks like she remembers pretty much everything. And she just needs to work on a little bit of that impulsivity as well that comes with being a young dog. Rocco's kind of doing awesome as well. So I think let's try, I'm going to do an exercise where I'm going to have these guys hold place while I do a quick little fun thing with Rocco. With place, we are at the point, I'm assuming she still remembers that. We haven't really reviewed it, but these guys should know place well enough that I don't need an actual object, so I don't need an actual place bed to have them hold place. But I want to make sure that I remember what my criteria for place is. So place is keep all 4 feet on this thing, or in this case, in this geographical location until I release you. You're allowed to be standing, you're allowed to lay down, but I don't want to see you moving away from the spot that I placed you in. So they're allowed to sit, they're allowed to stand, they're allowed to lay down and stretch out and make themselves comfortable, but they're not allowed to leave that geographical location. And that's important to make sure that we have clear criteria for that, because if we're not sure, we can't expect them to be sure what that is. So I'm gonna grab some equipment over here. We're just gonna do some fun stuff with Rocco, like I said. And we'll see how this goes. We got a little fit paw guy over here. All right, so we're gonna say Cassie in place. Good. And we're gonna get Chloe over here at some point in a second. Good. Chloe, place. Good. She's like, I'm gonna offer, like, and that's good boy. That is common. And actually, I probably should have waited to feed her until she did what Cassian did just here. So we call it the rutabaga experiment. And I think I got this from J. Jack at some point. He calls it rutabaga, but essentially